The Midtown Academy is open for business. It has been a while getting to where they're going, but they have now arrived.
This is 3 years in the making, and so when you hear me say Midtown in the making, it's been a long time coming. So I would mirror what my teachers and faculty said is, what is there not to be excited about? We get to meet new families, we get to make strong connections to the community, we get to expose our scholars to many different things that they haven't been exposed to previously in our school, and so it's just in the words of Ms. Salgado, an exciting time at Midtown. We think of our first year in our program, we think of it as an exploratory year. And so we think about the world at their door. And so many of our scholars that live in this community and our surrounding communities have never really had a chance to experience what's happening in downtown St. Petersburg and all over our beautiful city. And so giving them that opportunity to make connections to, I think is going to give them more experience and a more worldly knowledge of different things, and especially because museums will expose them to different cultures. The theater will expose them to different things, as well as their musical opportunities. And so it's just going to be able to make a connection for them in areas that they have not before, even though they've been here all of their lives. We started this in speaking with the community 2 years ago, and so one of the questions that we reached out to our community and our families is, what did you want us to offer? What would you like us to offer? We have this very unique opportunity at Midtown Academy, and so what is it that you would like to see? And our families identified things like art, dance, language, music, instruments, and so we really thought about how can we honor all of those interests and requests. And out of that was born the school-wide enrichment model. And so we get an opportunity to expose our scholars to all of those areas and even ignite some passion in areas that they hadn't even thought about before. The school-wide enrichment model is a gifted model for all scholars, and it is based through Renzulli Learning, and they have an opportunity to take an interest survey. And through that interest survey, we match scholars with faculty members and staff that also have same or like interests, and they get together once a week and identify different things. They could have a guest speaker where in that area of interest. So say if it's photography, for example, the leader of the SIM cluster could bring in a photographer to talk to scholars, and the hope through that is that it would ignite something in scholars like, I like photography, but I didn't know that there was a such thing as photojournalism. And so, and it's also to, as they think about those things and ignite those passions, to think about, is there something that we could use in our interests and talents to maybe solve a real world problem? And so they could end up knowing and learning about Midtown community, the Midtown community, and say, hey, we want to do a history of Midtown through photography. And through that school-wide enrichment cluster, they may take photographs, create a book, present it to the community. And so it's just a great way to, I would say, use their interest to spark other passions, and ultimately what we want them to do is be real world problem solvers. So how can they do that in an area that they have an interest? And when you're interested in something, you're going to be pretty good at it. So it also allows them to be successful.
When asked why a parent should send their student to Midtown, Ms. Slaughter had a good answer.
I had to think about this as a parent because I have my third grader here this year who is in the gifted program. And when I thought about it, he was at a phenomenal school. I loved his school. I loved his teachers, the administration. They were doing everything right. But when I really thought about the exposure and the experiences that he would get at Midtown Academy and being able to make those connections in the classroom to art and music, and also in their core subject areas, to be exposed to many things that he wouldn't have an opportunity at his other school, it was a no-brainer. And so our scholars get to participate in the school-wide enrichment model where they focus on areas of interest and they get to be real-world problem solvers in that. They get to make a connection to the world around them and the community around them. They get exposure to arts, culture, music culture, museums, and that brings a worldly knowledge to them. And so the experiences that any scholar will get from coming to Midtown Academy makes us the best, hands down.
In recent years, St. Pete has become an international destination for the arts. And where Midtown is, all of these wonderful resources are in our backyard. We have access to world-class museums, vibrant art districts, festivals, just a great art scene that the kids have access to right down the street. Each lesson in our cultural arts art class is either based on an art culture, a global culture, influential artist, an art movement, and of course the artwork that are at the area museums. So we start in the classroom. We give an introduction to who we're learning about or what movement we're learning about. And then we take a trip, and that really exposes them, and this is for music as well. It gives them real life experience to seeing a piece of artwork in real life is completely different than seeing it at the screen. And they have access to this kind of community, kind of collaboration of learning from art teachers from Midtown, obviously, museum professionals, and local artists. So they get this different, well-rounded education that is multifaceted versus just hearing it from the teacher. You know, in museums, we're going to see things in real life, and it's going to be just with the standards, but instead of possibly, let's say if I were doing a traditional landscape lesson, of course I would do maybe Edward Hopper. But then at the James Museum, they have the Taos Society of Artists, who also fell in love with the American landscape. So it's just a different way of kind of teaching kids the same type of lesson. This would be the perfect opportunity for them to really express their potential and their growth as an artist. Students have the opportunity to go to music and art twice a week. So that's 4 classes of, you know, the arts each week. So, you know, one class, I know how we divided the arts. One teacher is kind of doing standard-based lessons, whereas I'm doing the cultural side, and we're going on field trips to cultural organizations, and my class always will involve an artist, an art movement, or an area cultural organization. Most of the kids always talk about the Dolly. I mean, I think he's probably the most widely well-known. And then they hear the other kids who've been to the Dolly and hear how wonderful and great it is. I mean, this is our international draw to St. Pete. And I think the Dolly had a lot to do with the other museums that are popping up. The kids just, I mean, he's an enigmatic character in himself. And I think the kids are really drawn to that and his kind of, you know, quirky, I think, strange at first artwork until they realize what it's all about. So they're just so interested in that. I know I'm excited and why I wanted to be at this school. It really took my love of working in an art museum and working in being an art teacher in a public school. It's like I get to do both at once. Not only do I get to teach about great artists, I get to teach about the great artists that are here and exhibited in St. Pete. We have some of the best museums in the country. We have the Dolly, the James Museum, Imagine, the MFA, which has such a broad breadth of different type of art. I get to give these kids real life experience on what art is, where it is in the community, and it's just great to be able to take what they learn outside of the school and involve it in the creative process while they're here.
Just the whole atmosphere of the school, the teachers coming in, like everybody ready to work. The students are everybody's so excited. Everybody's so behind us. The community, people are asking questions. It's good to be noticed for everything that we're about to do, because I've been here for the last 2 years, and it's every meeting we're like, we're going to be the best school in Pinellas County. It's going to happen. We're going to be the best. And every year we've just seen it progress. Baby steps, but we're moving forward every year. So I'm just super excited about everything here. I definitely think the kids are going to respond. They already have shown response. Even in my second grade classroom, talking about how we're going to go on more field trips to show our learning and to learn in different ways. They're just really excited because some of the places in St. Pete our kids haven't been to, and they're just they're reaching for that desire, and we're able to give it to them this year finally. So and I haven't even been to some of those places, so I'm excited too. So it's kind of it's a school thing. Everybody's excitement is just traveling. And they were building things with the straws and tape. And I walked in kind of halfway through, and they were putting different cars and seeing how many cars they could set on top of the straws. I walked in, and every single student had hands on a straw. I was expecting it to be really loud, and they were all talking and like, oh, well, let's put this here. So they were like working together, and I was really, I don't want to say surprised, but I was kind of like, whoa, that's awesome. And they were testing it, and everyone was around looking at them testing it, and they were just super excited to see whose bridge, it was a bridge, and they were putting cars on it. They were excited to see whose bridge was going to actually hold up and hold the most cars. And there was actually a bridge that got 5 cars on it, and they were like, oh yeah, and someone said, we won. And then the teacher corrected them and said, no, this is a learning space. Everybody won by working together and creating something. So it was pretty cool, and they're like, yeah, we didn't win, but we got a lot of cars on, and so it was pretty cool to see.